impatience and cowardliness, the author brings باب البخل وباب عقوبة البخل, the chapters on stinginess and the chapters on the punishment for being stingy. The author begins with the verse of Allah Azza wa Jal, الَّذِينَ يَبَخَلُونَ وَيَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبُخْلِ. The ones who are stingy, but not only they're stingy, they begin ordering other people with stinginess. So here, one of the effects of being stingy is that someone begins not only being stingy within their own self, but they begin also ordering people with stinginess. They begin also encouraging and ordering, and it affects the way that they live their life, and it affects the way that they even want others to spend their money as well. So the stinginess not only affects them in the way they spend their money, but it affects everybody around them. Now we said, what did we say bukhul was? Last week we said, bukhul was, what did we say it was? Okay, greediness, holding, refraining from spending the money. Okay, miserliness, refraining from spending the money in its due right or where it belongs to be spent. And the words, when we always hear about sadaqah and encouragement of spending money and infaq fi sabilillah, what is the word sadaqah? Where does that come from? What does that word sound like in the Arabic language? Sadaqah. What three-letter word does it sound like, Abdullah? Sidq. And what does that mean? What does that mean, Muhammad? Truth. So the sadaqah, when we spend our money, that's pointing to the truthfulness of what? Of your iman. You claim you're a believer, you claim you believe in Allah, you claim you desire the akhirah and a better world and the hereafter. If you make those claims, the sadaqah that you give is the sign that you're telling the truth and that your claim is true. Because we're created as what? وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. You love the wealth with a great deal of love. وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيد. He's very, very in love with the money, with the khair, with the goods of this world. وَيَطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ. They feed the food although they love it dearly. So when we're able to detach from that wealth and give it up and share it with its due right, that's a sign that your iman is true. And the more someone is stingy and holding on to the wealth and unable to detach from that money, the more his claims to be believing in that last day and hoping and yearning for it and waiting for the reward are false. The author, he brings also a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ asked some of the Sahaba, Man sayyidukum ya Bani Salama? Who is your leader, O Bani Salama? So they said, Al-Jadd bin Qais. Our leader is Al-Jadd ibn Qais. But they said about him, Ala anna nubakhiluhu. However, we see him to be very, very stingy. Now look at this one quality. He was their leader, but this was enough for the Prophet Muhammad to say what? وَأَيُّ دَاءٍ أَدْوَأُ مِنَ الْبُخُلِ. And what disease is more dangerous than stinginess? So he said, now rather, بَلْ سَيِّدُكُمْ عَمْرُ ibn al-Jamuh. Your new leader will be Amr. Just because he was stingy, that was enough to remove him from his post as being their leader. So it's not only a dangerous quality to have, but again affects the ones around us. Now, spending in the way of Allah, as we know, is an act of worship. It's ibadah. When we spend in the way of Allah, it's act of worship. But even in the acts of worship, we're supposed to follow the guidelines of the Quran and the Sunnah with every act of worship that we do, even with the spending. So what do we encourage when we spend? How are we supposed to spend our money? Allah Azza wa Jalla describes that even these ibadur Rahman, these elite worshippers, even when they spend their money, they do what? لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَامًا. Even when they spend their money, there's no israf and there's no ifrat وَلَا تَفْرِيط. They don't overspend and they're not over stingy. They take a path in the middle. They take a path right there in the middle. So what is the meaning of israf? And what is the difference between israf and tabdhir? We know Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَلَا تُبَذِّرْ تَبْذِيرًا إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ. Okay, so we have one category, وَلَا تُبَذِّرْ. The ones who make tabdhir with their wealth, they're the brothers of the shayateen. They're the brothers of the devils. And we have some verses that tell us, don't make israf. What's the difference between the two? So the scholars say israf is when we overspend or we spend our money لغير حاجة, with no need. We have no need, but we're overspending it, and it's not going to any kind of act of worship. It's not going to any act of worship, nothing rewarding, nothing for the sake of Allah, and no need. That's called israf now. But what about tabdhir? Tabdhir, these ones who are the brothers of the shayateen, what do they do with their wealth? They're spending excessively.
Where it's not
What
needed.
is not needed was the first one, israf. It wasn't needed. The second one's on bad things. Fil ma'asi. They're overspending excessively on sin and transgression and things that are forms or acts of disobedience. So this becomes now a higher level of israf, and they're described as being the brothers of the shayateen. They're described as being the brothers of the shayateen. So again, in Islam, the believer takes a very careful approach with even what he spends and how he spends it. We understand that the wealth that we have, إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ fitna. Your wealth and your children are a trial for you. They're a test to see how you'll behave and what you'll do with that money. And we know on the Day of Judgment, we won't move a single footstep until what? Until we're asked about four things. What? What are we going to be asked about? The ulama in the back.
What your religion is?
Okay, in the grave you'll be asked those three questions. But on the Day of Judgment we won't be allowed to take a single step until we're asked about four. One of the four things, an malihi, on his wealth. From where he got it and what he spent it on. That was one. What's another one? Off subject. On his shabab, on his youth. What he did with that time, that period of quwwah, when Allah blessed him with the ability and the intellect and the understanding and the ability to strive and to worship. What did you do with that blessing? وعن hayatihi, his life as a whole. What did you do with your life? How did you spend your life? وعن ilmihi, on your knowledge. What you did with the knowledge that you had. So we will not be able to take a single footstep until we're asked about those four. But here, a shahid, وعن malihi, your wealth. Where you got it from and what you spent it on. So we'll be asked, we won't be allowed to move until we're asked very detailed questioning about our wealth. So the point is, the believer takes a balanced approach, an approach according to the Quran and the Sunnah, with even how he spends his money, making sure it's spent in the right way, making sure that we're not over stingy with it, and we're not overspending, especially when it comes to haram. The last hadith that comes up, in the next chapter, we'll quickly finish them to time together. Babu uqubat al-bukhl, the chapters on the punishment for being over stingy. The author brings the verse of Allah Azza wa Jal, سَيُطَوَّقُونَ مَا بَخِلُوا بِهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. They will be wrapped with that which they were stingy with on the Day of Judgment. So what is the punishment for being stingy? And here, of course, we're talking about there are certain types of wealth that we have to spend that's wajib on us. Like what? The zakah, for example. What else? What else will be wajib for us to spend on? The family, for example. Now here, if someone is stingy in this aspect here, now this is what we're talking about, it's a major sin. And the person deserves punishment. And the punishment is very severe. The Prophet, Allah Azza wa Jalla, describes that they'll be wrapped with their wealth on the Day of Judgment. How? We look to the hadith now to give the detailed description of the generality of the ayat in the Quran. The Prophet Muhammad said that the one who was given and hoarded that wealth and didn't spend it where it was due for the sake of Allah, a bald-headed snake will be sent to him on the Day of Judgment. في يوم كان مقداره 50,000 سنة. And it will wrap him, and it will be stinging each side of his cheeks over and over and over again, and it will be said to him, I am your wealth. I am your wealth. So this is the one who was too stingy to spend when it was wajib on him to spend. And if it was animals, livestock, we know there's generally four categories we have to pay zakah on. One of them is what? Bahimat al-an'am, the livestock and the animals. Another one? Okay, an-nuqud, your wealth, your cash and currency and gold and silver. What else? Al-zakah, tajib fi arba'a. What's the third one? Urud al-tijara, the business merchandise that one uses to buy and sell and to make money with. And the fourth? The vegetation, and the vegetation, the fruits, and not the fruits, the vegetation that grows, the zakah is due on it. These are the four categories. So the animals, the Prophet Muhammad said, if someone holds back and is stingy and doesn't pay in the animals, what will happen? He'll be laid out in an open plain. And the animals will be sent to trample him in long lines. And when the line finishes, as soon as the last one has finished, the first one has wrapped back around for another round. And he'll be trampled over and over and over with his wealth. This is if the person has livestock. So the point is, it's very, very dangerous for the ones who make money and don't give that due right where it's due. As Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ. In their wealth, there's a due right. It's not our money to decide what we want to do with it. It's Allah Azza wa Jalla giving us that wealth to see if we'll give it accordingly to where it's due. And finally, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in one narration, he said that the angels every day will come down every morning and they'll make the dua, Allahumma a'ti mumsikan talafa, wa a'ti munfiqan khalafa. Oh Allah, give the one who holds back and hoards his wealth, talafa. Make his wealth get lost and destroyed. Oh Allah, give the one who spends his wealth, khalafa. Replace it for him and give him even more. So this dua is made by the malaika every morning. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to make us from the ones that are able to spend their wealth and not from the ones who are stingy and hoard and hold back our wealth where it's due. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.